Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in once again to Queen Ahmadiyyah TV presents True Crimes. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you haven't done so already, be sure to click the notification bell and click the word all so that you're notified each time I go live on this channel. Okay? So thank you all for being in the chat. Hello, Michael M., Melanated Brown, Van Varner, Ayon, Cherokee Descendant King, Felicia. All right, Margaret, let's get into it. Pearly, Woke One. Okay, Silent D, I'm glad to see you all, Chelsea. Terry Hinton, Della. Okay, Desmond, let's get into it. So this is the story of a nefarious serial killer who was killing all these women. He killed about 11 women in Cleveland. And he is said to be the most notorious serial killer in Cleveland, right? Anthony Sowell, that's his name. Now, or that was his name because he's dead now. But Anthony Sowell, the infamous Cleveland serial killer who committed one of the most shocking series of crimes in the city's history. Well, he's dead now. Okay, he died in an Ohio prison hospital of an unspecified illness. A state corrections department official gave this information. Now, Sowell was 61, and he was awaiting the death penalty for the gruesome and depraved slayings that have haunted the Mount Pleasant neighborhood since police found the decomposed bodies of 11 women on his property more than a decade ago. Now, state prison officials on January the 21st moved Sowell from death row to the Chillicothe Correctional Institution to the end-of-life care unit at the Franklin Medical Center in Columbus. Now, he died at 3:27 p.m., according to prison records from a spokesperson. Now, Sowell suffered from a terminal illness, but Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections spokesperson or spokeswoman Jo Ellen Smith could not say exactly what the illness was. She said his death is not the result of the C virus. Now, his case became an international news story. It highlighted deep deficiencies within the Cleveland area criminal justice system that saw several of Sowell's victims ignored by law enforcement. Why were they ignored, you may ask? Well, because they were Black. Okay, his victims were Black. So they were ignored by law enforcement, allowing him to remain free to rape and kill others. Now, it also called into question how seriously police took the families of these missing people. And, they were known to live on society's fringes. In other words, some of them were transients, some of them were prostitutes, some of them were estranged from their families. So a lot of them were on the streets, and that's why their lives just didn't matter, apparently. So Cleveland paid out more than $1.3 million to the victims and their families, to the victims' families, to settle lawsuits over how the detectives handled the accusations against Sowell before his arrest. Sowell had been free from prison for several years in October of 2009, having had already served a 15-year sentence for rape when officers went to his Imperial Avenue home as part of a new rape investigation. Now, investigators found 2 decomposing bodies on the 3rd floor and a freshly dug grave in his basement. Police took Sowell into custody 2 days later. Meanwhile, investigators combed through every inch of the house and the property. They looked through everything, and in the end, they found the decomposed bodies of 10 women, as well as a skull in the buckets in the basements. Clearly nefarious. Now, the investigators later determined that Sowell had lured the victims, all who were vulnerable. Some of them were prostitutes or drug addicted. They had struggles, right? And he lured them to his home. He raped and strangled them, discarding their bodies in shallow graves, crawl spaces, and even out to decompose in the open air. And here's the thing. He didn't live in this house by himself. His mother and father lived there with him. Okay? Now, the victims who escaped later recounted how Sowell lured them into his life and transformed into a monster. Some spoke of police officers who didn't believe what they had reported. A jury found Sowell guilty in 2011 of dozens of charges, including multiple counts of aggravated murder and other crimes for the women that he killed. He was also convicted of trying to kill 3 women who actually survived. Now, Cuyahoga County's Common Pleas Judge Dick Ambrose sentenced Sowell to death, rejecting arguments that the hard life lived by that he had a hard life lived as a killer. Please. Okay, a Marine who had an abusive childhood and may have suffered from mental and cognitive disorders. They said that should be a reason to spare his life, but apparently the judge didn't see it that way. Now, John Parker, one of the 2 attorneys who represented Sowell at his trial, said that he spent many hours with his client, and that Parker, who had not spoken to Sowell in many years, maintained that his former client's troubled upbringing rippled throughout the rest of his life. He says he was not a monster and he was not evil. He was damaged by childhood abuse and serious mental health problems. May he rest in peace. Please. I don't know what these people are thinking when they feel sorry for these demons who got here and murdered numerous people with no regrets, no remorse, and so callously. Now, Sowell, like most death row inmates, continued to fight his case in court to the end. The discovery of the bodies in Sowell's home solved a mystery that had real circumstances or consequences for the neighborhood and a well-established East Side business. Residents at the home complained of a smell. They said it permeated throughout the entire neighborhood. Now, former city councilman Zach Reed, whose ward included Mount Pleasant, said there was a woman who lived across the street from Sowell who told him the neighbor smelled like dead bodies. Said the entire neighborhood smelled like dead bodies. Pipe drains were flushed and sewers were replaced because of that smell. Now, the owners of Ray's Sausage next to Sowell's house spent nearly $20,000 for new plumbing fixtures because they thought it was coming from their business. They paid for plumbing fixtures such as sewer lines and grease traps, and complaints that their operation was the source of the odor. People thought it was their business. And isn't that something? Because I'm so sure that they lost numerous of customers. Now, they say those women never got justice. This is what Reed said in an interview after Sowell's death had spread, after they found out about his death. He said those families never got justice. The community never got justice. Ray's Sausage never got justice. There's nothing good that came out of that situation. Can you imagine having your business next to a person who's killing people and leaving their bodies to decompose there in their own home? And that's affecting your business? Clearly, you'd have no way of guessing or even imagining the heinousness that was going on. I'm going to show you this video. I'm going to share my screen. Oh, this is all so crazy. And let me just tell y'all a little bit about him. So, because I saw a story about this years ago. Okay, so anyway, he was living in a home with his mom and dad, and the house was so filthy. It was disgusting, covered with roaches and flies, all of that. Had all this trash all over the place. There was dishes piled in the sink. I don't know how anyone who came there, even if he lured them, would have stayed. I mean, the stench was awful. You could smell it from down the street. Why would anybody in their right mind go in that house? But alas, I guess when you're on drugs, you'll do just about anything, I guess, to get your fix. So anyway, he would lure these women there, take them up to his room, which I believe was on the 3rd floor, and then have sex with them and then strangle them and kill them. And that's what he would do. He would lie and tell them he's going to pay them money for sex and things like that, because many of these women were prostituting themselves to pay for their drug habits. And he was hiding these bodies in his home. Now, his mother and father, I think they had to have known something, because if the neighbors can smell those dead bodies decaying all the way down the street and across the street, you mean to tell me people living in the house with you couldn't smell it? Didn't think anything was a bit odd or strange? I'm just saying that's just so disgusting and deplorable. Let me share my screen so you all can see this video. Get the likes up, people. Please like and share the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so.
This foam cleaner turns old into new. Everything turns dull and dirty eventually. Ask yourself, does this need replacing or just a real...
up, son. I'm gonna show y'all the pictures of when she was growing up. Galatia hung this picture here, so I don't ever move it. Yeah. She told me, she said, I'll be back next month because this grass gonna be up high again. I said, okay. But when next month came, she didn't call me. She didn't call me. Maybe we better report her missing. So I called East Cleveland police. They said that they were gonna have somebody to look for her. But as far as I know, they never called me back. And when I called them, well, they didn't have no information of who was looking for and what. This cordless, and it sits on the charger. And when I get ready to hang it up, her obituary is right there. And I said, night-night, baby girl. And then I put the phone on the charger, and it says beep. That's her telling me goodnight. I mean, it's all a mental thing, you know, but that's the only thing that helps.
They say that death is the great equalizer, that no matter who you are or where you're from, we all turn to dust in the end. But in Cleveland, my hometown, where life has long been divided by race and class, injustice stretches well into the hereafter. Over the course of 2.5 years, 11 women were raped, strangled, and murdered by one of the most heinous serial killers in American history, Anthony Sowell. Before their deaths, these women were all members of one of the most marginalized populations in the city of Cleveland. They were poor, Black, and struggling with addiction in the ghetto on the east side of town.
So Crystal Dozier was last heard of on May 17, 2007. Deshauna Culver was last seen sometime in March. LaShonda Long disappeared in the summer of 2000. Michelle Mason went missing in October. Nancy Cobb's body was found wrapped inside 6. Janice Webb was last seen on June 20. Felicia Fortson was last seen by her daughter. Tanya Carmichael was last seen. Kim Smith. There was a ligature in the phone. Melda Hunter was last seen sometime. Diane Turner was last seen in late August, early September 2000.
Sowell was arrested for his crimes in 2009. Today he sits on death row. For the past 5 years, the injustice of this story has nagged at my mind. I had to revisit the case.
Okay, now I'm not going to play all of that, people, because clearly that is like an hour and something long, okay? However, I will put the link in the chat if you want to watch the entirety of it, okay? I'll put the link in the chat, but listen to this. Where is the Cleveland Strangler who murdered 11 women and kept the bodies in his home? Convicted killer Anthony Sowell was sentenced to death a decade ago for the murders of women in Ohio. So this is one of the detectives I'm going to play talking about it. Preying on vulnerable individuals, Anthony Sowell, notoriously nicknamed the Cleveland Strangler, was ultimately behind the murders of 11 Black women. Now, Sowell's depraved crimes are chronicled in the chilling detail in the 2-hour Oxygen special, Snapped, Notorious, the Cleveland Strangler. The gruesome slayings, which occurred in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood Sowell lived in, have left the undeniable mark of Ohio's largest or second largest city of heinousness. Now, from 2007 to 2009, the killer lured women to his home with the promise of drugs and alcohol and money before raping and strangling them. He then hid the decomposing bodies in and around the house on Imperial Avenue. He was caught after Cleveland police showed up at his home on October the 29th of 2009 after a woman that Sowell had attacked had escaped and eventually gone to the authorities. Now, authorities had warrants to arrest Sowell and to search his house, where they found 2 decaying corpses. The following day, officials discovered the remains of 3 more victims. This sounds like John Wayne Gacy. Do you all remember John Wayne Gacy? They called him the killer clown because he would actually dress up like a clown to entertain children. But he was a killer, and he was killing homosexual men and then hiding their bodies in crawl spaces in his own home. And he was married and had a whole wife and kid. The wife ended up leaving him, though she said she never knew any of the things that he was doing. But I'm sure she had to smell that stench. Because the dead bodies in your house, honey, the stench has to be unbearable. Okay. And his neighbors were complaining about the stench as well, just like with this person. And so the police, when they uncovered his crimes, they found 32 dead men in a crawl space in his attic. So make that make sense. So anyway, many residents in the neighborhood had erroneously blamed the terrible stench that rose up from the decomposing remains on a sausage business next door to Sowell's home. Sowell was arrested October the 31st, 2011. Now, investigators found and identified the remains of 11 women. That was Tanya Carmichael, Nancy Cobbs, Tashana Culver, Crystal Dozier, Talacia Fortson, Amelda Hunter, Lashonda Long, Michelle Mason, Kim Yvette Smith, Diane Turner, and Janice Webb. Now, in 2011, Sowell was found guilty and sentenced to death for the murders. However, he never faced lethal injection. Earlier this year, on February the 8th, he died at a Franklin Medical Center, a prison hospital in Columbus, Ohio. The cause of death was unspecified terminal illness. Sowell, age 61, had been receiving end-of-life care, according to the Associated Press, although the outlet noted the cause of death was not C-19. Now, Cuyahoga County Prosecutor Michael O'Malley issued the following statement on Sowell's death. He said, "My thoughts and prayers at this time are with the family and friends of the victims of this monster. This community will never fully recover from the horror that occurred on Imperial Avenue. My hope is that law enforcement and the criminal justice system have learned from the mistakes that allowed this diabolical predator to go undetected for so long." Now, the state prison system notified the families of Sowell's death. Joanne Moore, the sister of Janice Webb, one of the victims, said that the ultimate goal was to see this through and see that he got justice. Now, that was something else we were able to see. Him take his last breath, she said. She described Sowell's mass murders as a tragic story for the city of Cleveland. "I still miss my sister. I am glad he is dead. God made it happen." Now, this is what Donita Carmichael, the sister of Tanya Carmichael, said. She said, "I will never, ever forgive him." So that's very crazy. So hold on, I'm going to play this video. Let's share my screen. Everyone, please get the likes up. Please like and share, like and share.
Missing women, all from the same neighborhood. 7 of the 11 are, been arrested for prostitution. 6 of them have drug offenses. So you've got a basic makeup of the type of victim you're looking for, and then put a pattern together. And hopefully, this won't occur again.
And this is what a lot of serial killers do. They prey on people that nobody will notice or care about. Just like the Green River killer, he killed like 48 women and they were prostitutes. And that's why he got away with it so long, because when their families reported them missing, the police would say, "Oh, maybe they're out there doing drugs, or maybe they ran off somewhere," whatever. They don't take it seriously. They don't even care to go look for those people. I guess it's too much work for them, if you ask me. So hold on. I have one more video of how the people who survived helped to catch him. Survivors played key roles in the capture of Cleveland's most notorious serial killer. A serial killer nicknamed the Cleveland Strangler turned his home into a grisly house of horrors. 2 survivors helped end his homicide spree. So 2 days before Halloween in 2009, Cleveland police stepped into an actual house of horrors when they raided the home of Anthony Sowell. In and around the otherwise indistinct three-story dwelling in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood, officers discovered the decomposing remains of his victims. Their lives had been cruelly cut short over a 2-year span. Now, the gruesome crime scene is recalled as being something like out of Dante's Inferno and the gripping 2-hour oxygen special Snapped Notorious, the Cleveland Strangler. Except this was much worse. It wasn't a work of imagination, but the real-life atrocities of one of America's most notorious serial killers. All 11 of Sowell's victims were vulnerable Black women that he lured into his home with the promise of drugs and alcohol, and then he raped them and strangled them. Sowell's capture and eventual conviction owes a debt to other Black women who had escaped from the house. And it was a survivor's official statement to sex crime detectives that led authorities to Sowell's house on Imperial Avenue on October the 29th. He was arrested just days later. Okay, so I'm going to show this video. Everyone, please get the likes up, likes up, likes up.
I talked to him. I said, Anthony, if you committed these crimes, what would you tell people about the reason why you did it? And very quickly, he said 4 words: abused children grow up.
When Anthony said abused children grow up, it was a very chilling, cautionary tale. Like, there are consequences to when people abuse their children. And you never know when some of them might grow up and take revenge on innocent other people. And that just shows you again that Anthony knew what he was doing. He was trying to exact revenge on these other victims who were actually more helpless in comparison to his mother, who, when he was a child, he couldn't really exact that type of revenge on an adult who was more powerful than him. And in some ways, it's kind of a little bit of insightful that Anthony would say that, because we do find that there is that link between really severe childhood abuse and people growing up with antisocial personality disorder traits.
I find it very interesting that he didn't ever exact revenge on his mother, who actually was the abuser, and she was living in the house with him, his mother and father. So I just find it strange that he went out of his way to kill other people rather than doing something to his parents, who obviously were the ones who inflicted the abuse on him. Hold on, I'm going to show this last video because it looks like they're doing an interview with him. Okay.
And a lot of times we're not gonna get it. We know we're not gonna get it. So basically, we want to get you to talk. So as long as you're talking, I'm listening.
It's got to be right. It's got to be right before we finish this up.
You can't make nothing happen that I'm trying my best.
I know what you're saying, but
okay. See, every time I get it, you think like I can just, and everything is so, it's not clear like that.
Why isn't it?
I don't know.
You remember why you got demoted in the military?
That was that
was long ago, Tone. That was a whole lot long ago.
But I wasn't dreaming about no military. I lived the military.
You lived this?
I know, but it's different.
You lived this.
It's different, man.
It's the most significant thing that has ever happened to you in your life. In your 50 years of living, 6 dead bodies are very, very significant. They are like concrete, like glue. They're stuck. They're not going nowhere for the rest of your life. You know they're going to be there forever.
We're detectives. We want to solve this. We want to put this thing to rest. We want to make sure that every victim is accounted for. We want to make sure every family member knows that we went after this guy and we did not leave no stone unturned.
Well, I'll tell you what. If the dream told you to choke her and you choked her, that damn dream is over when you start hauling that damn dirt up there, putting it on the damn body.
Now, he was just full of it, as far as I'm concerned. Sitting there talking about it was a dream that told him to do those things. Yeah, he doesn't care at all. He's talking about it like it's just, another day or whatever. So clearly, he was a sociopath. Now, remember what I told you about the sociopath and the psychopath. The psychopath is born without a conscience and clearly nefarious. from birth, likely inherited traits from other nefarious devils in their family. But a sociopath takes on these tendencies of having no conscience and being, not having remorse or empathy and sympathy for other people, only for themselves when they get caught. And they also exhibit antisocial personality traits, right? So with that all being said, he likely became a sociopath because remember, I said something traumatic happens to a person to turn them into a sociopath, whereas the psychopath is born that way. So he says he was abused as a child, so that's likely when he became that way. And the reason he likely didn't kill his parents is because even though they abused him, he likely still loved them. It's just like the victim who's kidnapped or whatever, like Patty Hearst, and the person, she actually defended her kidnappers because she'd been with them for years. And that's like how he is, likely. Stockholm syndrome. So that's probably why he wouldn't kill them, but he would take it out on other people. Okay? So with that all being said, I'm going to conclude this broadcast because I'm coming right back. And we're going to talk about the axe murder of a teacher. Okay, that's the next story coming right after this one. So everybody, please like and share the video, subscribe to the channel. If you haven't done so, be sure to click the notification bell and click the word all so that you're notified each time I go live on here.